Hi everybody and welcome back to another Legends of Runeterra video. Today we get the second variety reveal. This is going to be Bilgewater, Piltover Zon, and Shurima. These are cards, I guess, synergized with pre-existing archetypes already, rather than the new ones that they're introducing into the game, this expansion. So shouldn't really see any Pike or Rek'Sai synergy with these cards. Yeah, it should be focused on the other archetypes. So pretty interesting. I always enjoy the variety reveals. I enjoyed the previous ones that we got already for this expansion with the other regions. So yeah, let's go ahead and just start out here and see what we have. So we got some Piltover Zon Shurima cards on this first page, and there's a second page as well with Bilgewater and Piltover Zon. So what we've got here is Boom Baboon. When I'm summoned, create a Flame Chompers in hand, a 2-cost unit that's a 3/1, a common. Um, I'm a pretty big fan of any card that creates other cards. This is cool as well on another level because it's creating a Flame Chompers, which is discard fodder that we can use in a Jinx deck, which is what I think this is going towards, right? So we're creating a card, we're getting value by potentially placing this in a discard deck and being able to get value out of the Flame Chompers as well. Not only that, this guy actually has a pretty decent stat line for a 2-drop that's also creating something. So we get extra value. The total stat line, well, I guess you can't really do the total stat line here because the Flame Chomper still counts as a 2-cost card. But I mean, in a discard fodder deck, it's going to pretty much be summoned by using another card. So I guess we could just say this is basically a 3/3 value in the right deck. I really like this card. I really like any sort of production, and this one will definitely be worth experimenting with in Jinx decks and Draven decks and any sort of other deck that we could discard. I mean, this could even be used in like a Zoe Jinx deck, which I've tried before with like the Spacey Sketcher in discard. So pretty interesting. I'm a pretty big fan of this card, and is a potential card that they're adding to spice up an old archetype and meta. So pretty cool. All right, let's move on to this 10-drop Glorious Evolution. A slow speed 10-cost spell. This is an epic, so we already know that it's going to pretty much be trash. One thing to note is it's a 10 cost, so it is this is added to the pool of something like Flash of Brilliance, so keep that in mind. Replace your cards everywhere with exact copies of themselves, not fleeting. That's good. They have -1 cost, so kind of like Progress Day, except it's all the cards. Replace your cards everywhere. Oh, so this is everywhere, not only just in your hand, but everywhere. So that's pretty cool. And any cards that you potentially create, they have -1 cost. They're augment and are now tech. So obviously the augment and the tech are only going to be for units. They should only be for units. This is a pretty interesting card. I don't know how viable this is going to be. Now they kind of I mean the tech keyword has been around for a little bit with Heimerdinger, but there were no main deckable cards that were tech until this last expansion with the I can't even remember what it is. It's called the 1-drop that copy that like grants itself and other tech units keywords from other tech units. So that's pretty cool. We're seeing some synergy with that. So we can see some stats sharing as well. However, this is just I mean the concept is cool, but I mean we are sacrificing pretty much as much tempo as you can inside the entire game without getting a whole lot out of it immediately. So I mean, we do get the reduction cost, right? Which in theory would eventually make up the difference for Glorious Evolution. But I mean, it is coming out pretty late in the game. So I mean, I don't think this is going to be like a fun deck to experiment with. I don't think it's going to be tier 1 though. Um, I mean, yeah, it's intriguing as a card, but I'll definitely be messing around and trying to create a deck with this, but I don't think it's going to be very competitive. It's just coming out way too late. It's slow speed. It's 10 costs. I mean, it's a huge swing in mana. So compare this to something like Fill the Rush or even War Mother's Call. Feel the Rush sees some play in a mana ramp deck, so you're able to get up to that point to play it. But like War Mother's Call hasn't really been played efficiently for a long time, and this is kind of like the card that I would compare that to. War Mother's Call is even like summoning units onto your deck or onto your board, right, for immediate value. This one doesn't give you that. So we'll see what happens. I kind of doubt that this is going to be a super, super good card, but it could definitely be fun to play with. All right, let's move on to the 6-cost Shurima slow speed spell. Shifting Sands, deal 4 to a unit, summon 2 Sand Soldiers. So we have seen the potential of Shurima. Well, a lot of Shurima cards, while there are some control-y cards in the deck, most of them are slow speed. We have some combat strikes. We've got dealing damage to units, to champions, things like that. But they are pretty much all slow speed except for Spirit Fire, which is a burst speed spell. And then even that the damage comes in at the end of the round. We may see a champion. I'm thinking probably Xerath as the champion expansion that is going to be dealing damage, right? Damage synergy, sort of control-y with Shurima. We'll see what happens. This is more of like an Azir card because we're summoning units, but it's a slow speed spell. Azir is kind of transformed into more of an aggro champion, right, with Irelia, where you're trying to deal as much damage as possible early on in the game without like spending a whole bunch of mana. And this is kind of the opposite of that. So we're spending a lot of mana for the ability to potentially take out a unit and then summon 2 Sand Soldiers. I mean, in non-aggro Azir decks, maybe we try this out, but I think it's just a little bit too slow, too expensive, and not doing quite enough to help us to level up Azir or really contribute to that sort of archetype in a meaningful way. All right, let's go on here to this 1-drop. Treasure Seeker. Shurima. When I'm summoned, create a Waking Sands in hand. Waking Sands is the 2-drop that summons the ephemeral 5/2 from Shurima. I forget the name. Nobody uses it. Yeah, nobody uses it. But I mean, I actually am a pretty big fan of this card just because, again, this is like the Baboon, is that we are creating a card in hand. This is a pretty standard vanilla 1-drop, but we're getting a creation in hand as well that synergizes with kind of the Sivir archetype and Reputation archetype as well. So, I mean, we don't have to main deck Waking Sands. We can put this Treasure Seeker in and then use it as maybe potentially a blocker, an attacker at some point in the game without actually having to, like, a deck building cost of putting it in our deck. So I'm actually okay with this card. It seems like some experimentation will be in order to see if it's any good and fits into Reputation. Yeah, that's all I have to say about that. Card creation is always good. All right, the time has come. A 5-cost burst speed spell. Summon a Clockling. So that's pretty bad. If you predicted this game, summon 2 instead. All right, Clockling is the card that you get from Ancient Preparations. It's the 2/2. So I guess like the benefit of playing this, I suppose you're getting 2 2/2s at burst speed. And that's basically it, right? Which, I mean, could kind of combo as a finisher at burst speed. So kind of compare this to something like the Mistwraith card. I can't remember the name. The 4-cost burst speed, Mistwraith, summon the Mistwraith at burst speed. But I even think that's better than this one because at least the Mistwraith has Fearsome. You have, if you summon multiple Mistwraiths during the game, then its stat line is going to be bigger than a 2/2. But very similar to that, we can get burst speed units out onto the board. I mean, what can we see here? I don't really see this being played, really. I think it's kind of expensive for what you get, but maybe in some sort of experimentation decks with something like the Snapvine. I could see that, burst speed, 2 5/3s at the end of the game could be pretty funny. Yeah, the stipulation is you have to have predicted. That's pretty easy to do in a Shurima deck, so I don't really see this being a problem. By the time you can play 5 mana, if you're running a predict deck, you should have been able to predict. So, yeah, experimentation could be fun to play with, but I don't think it's going to hit competitive decks. All right, let's go on here. What we got here? So Revels Row, a landmark, a 5-cost landmark from Bilgewater. So that's pretty cool. And not only that, it's a countdown landmark too, which has been pretty limited to Shurima and Targon at the moment. I guess, and Freljord. We haven't really seen any other regions have countdown. There's probably another one that I'm forgetting, but we do see Revels Row here. When I count down, summon a random 1-cost follower. Count down 2, grant 1-cost allies +2, +1, and fearsome. Alright, so they're trying to do synergy with kind of the 1-drop units in Bilgewater and like the Jagged Taskmaster, the Monkey Idol, anything else? Just kind of the plunder, buff up your 1-cost cards. Maybe kind of a Professor Von Yip style deck as well with Piltover Zon and Bilgewater, but the problem with this is its cost. I just don't think it makes sense in a deck where you're trying to deal damage early on with your 1-cost units. So not only is it coming out on turn 5, you have to wait 2 turns for you to get actual value out of it. I guess we could run it in a Shurima deck now that I think about it with Sand Soldiers, which makes it difficult to block them since they're going to be. I mean, we could run it in an Azir deck. If Azir's leveled up, the Sand Soldiers are going to be 4/2s with Fearsome, which is pretty threatening. But again, it's kind of the tempo, right? Well, and Shurima, we have like the countdown cards as well. The countdown reduction cards we could use with Revels Row, but I just think it's a little too slow for what that deck's trying to do. It's trying to be kind of an aggro 1-drop deck. I don't think we're going to be able to get it out fast enough to actually have meaningful use out of this. And then we're including other decks to combo with this, like the countdown cards to get immediate value. Just doesn't seem like a good way to go. If the card was what's it called, the the 2-drop that advances 2, right? If that were a 1-drop, this could actually see some play, but where it's not, I just don't see it working too well. It's too slow for what that kind of deck is trying to do. All right, let's move on here. 2-cost burst speed spell. Line them up. Summon a powder keg. Create a knock 'em down in hand. So a burst cost summon a powder keg. So I kind of like this burst speed powder keg. That's pretty cool because we can combo this with things that burst speed. For example, with Make It Rain. So we can play down Make It Rain. At least this is how I'm guessing it would work. If the opponent tries to react by buffing their unit, we've got a burst speed summon powder keg that will combo with Make It Rain, which is awesome. So any sort of slow speed or fast speed spell, we can kind of bait our opponent to using cards to buff up or protect their units with their health, right? And then put this down at burst speed, which should combo on the stack with those spells that are already on the stack. So that's super cool. Gives us a little bit more reaction and a little bit more ways to play with damaging spells from Bilgewater. And like up until this moment, we haven't had any spell that has been able to summon powder kegs at burst speed. So this is really cool. Yeah, this has a whole bunch of potential, and I really like it for powder keg decks. This is pretty awesome, actually. It also could combo potentially with oh man, I'm forgetting all the names today. The boom ship. The boom ship as well, where we can get more powder kegs on the stack before blowing it up and getting more. So that's pretty cool. Although that's probably more of a meme deck, but still, it seems pretty funny that we could combo this with that. I mean, yeah, pretty cool. I'm actually a huge fan of this. And not only that, it's creating Knock 'em Down, which is basically a parlay that we're getting, a production of parlay. A slow speed, deal 1 to anything. So pretty much the same thing. Not bad. This is also a plunder procker, so pretty good in like a gangplank deck. I'm a big fan of this card. This is pretty cool. Adds a lot of versatility to this powder keg archetype that we really haven't seen before. All right, let's move on. The last card here, an Elnuk from Piltover Zon, and I am guessing, you kind of see here in the background, that this poor Elnuk is going to probably be getting the same treatment as the Dragon Chow. We can see in the full art, maybe it will be on the channel's thumbnail, but I'm guessing he's getting the same sort of treatment as Dragon Chow. He's a dead Elnuk. being tested on in Piltover's on. When I'm summoned, create a random Elnuk in the top 6 cards of your deck. So this is a 3-cost 3/4, so pretty decent stat line, honestly. This is the same stat line as the bear, the ranger bear, grumpy grizzled ranger, and whatever his bear is called. That's the 3/4 stat line, so pretty good. We're creating an Elnuk on the top 6 cards of your deck. Piltoverzon has pretty much become the secondary, like, Poro and now Elnuk sort of copy production, where we can get more synergy with the Elnuks. The Elnuks really haven't seen play since beta. Is it going to bring it back? Probably not. I can see them trying to create synergy with something like Call of the Wild, or where we're trying to pull Elnuks from the deck, and I can see the synergy here with Troop of Elnuks, where you're trying to get value out of playing them, right? Which I guess is pretty cool, and we could see some experimentation with. I don't think this is going to bring the Elnuks back in. It does give them a secondary region, though, which is pretty cool, and another card to use from another region that we didn't really have before. I mean, they pretty much always used Piltover's on with counterfeit copies and things like that, but we haven't ever had an actual Elnuk from Piltover's on. So experimentation definitely seems like a meme card at the moment, but maybe it will prove me wrong. All right, that's about it for today. We're going to cut it there. So pretty cool cards. I'm pretty excited for most of these. Revels Row maybe leaves a little bit to be desired. As the Shifting Sands, Glorious Evolution seems pretty cool. For experimentation, the time has come seems pretty cool for experimentation with like snap vines, and then Boom Baboon, Treasure Seeker, and line them up all seem pretty solid. So what do you guys think? Am I wrong? Am I right? Do you guys agree? What kind of decks do you see being built with these cards? Are you excited for any of them in particular? Are you excited for Volunteer Elnuk, who's going to become toxic meat probably? Yeah, go ahead and let me know. If you guys enjoy the video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, and we will see you tomorrow. Thanks.